And welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show. Phone lines are open, 855-752-4842, 855-75 Civic. Good news, all you techies out there. The socials are back up.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! We gave the flux capacitor a kick, put some grease on it, some ball bearings, and next thing you know, here we go. So, even though that's up, you can find it on, I guess, the YouTubes for Civic Media.
The YouTubes,
and
the
Facebookies. We on the Twitter, the XE2 as well. All right, all over the place. And you can always check out the visual there. Let me tell you, it's quite compelling. But also, this is radio, man. You listen to us on the radio, and that happens to be the goal for the Green and Gold Text to Win contest. The word today is radio. Radio. So make sure you go download that Civic Media app. You punch in the word at the bottom, you text it, use the text button and your screen, find the word, send the keyword radio for your chance to win in this statewide contest. Weekly prizes, grand prizes, it's all cool, it's radio. So check it out and please get involved. Share with your friends, download the Civic Media app. It's super cool. As mentioned, John Nichols is going to join at the bottom of the hour, but let's take some of your calls. Some folks have comments on the Hovde. Apparently Hovde is doing a little shakeup over at his campaign, not doing as well as they hoped. So our pal Ben Vogel is out. He was the communications guy. Some of the fundraising folks, they are out. And he sent himself $13.7 million on his own campaign. Yeesh. Out of what, 16 million? Something around that. Don't quote me. It's pretty close. Jake from the MKE, you're up. What do you got for us?
Yeah, he's just not a likable person. I mean, he's like, love me, Wisconsin, love me, I love you. With all his ads, always trying to prove to be loved and how good of a guy he is and all this stuff. But, he's just another rich guy from out of state who has no idea about how Wisconsin works. And Tammy Baldwin, she's very strong, and she appeals to more people, even like Republicans, and she really understands about, the fact that they do need legal migrants on the farms and everything. And so when he's using that stuff against her, it's so fake. And trying to tie her to things that she's not even should be tied to. It's ridiculous.
It comes across as like acting as manufactured, not like genuine. Yeah. And I don't know if maybe that's a product of being that wealthy. Michaels, I think, had, politics aside, delivery. Hovde seems to come across as a little less of a harsh personality than Michaels did. Michaels literally told everybody in the state of Wisconsin that they were lazy. Mm-hmm. That's not great. Yeah, and then he followed up with Jake like, oh, well, I realize all the pandemic money has all been spent, but no, dude, that's terrible. You don't say that. And he didn't, he was also an out-of-state guy, a millionaire as well, and these guys got lots of homes. Hovde comes across as perhaps a little more genuine than that, at least to me, Jake. But I wonder if it's that if you're that rich, is it hard to connect with, folks that are actually gassing their car up and, going to the grocery store? I don't know to what degree, but I think there might be some of that disconnect. When he came out with his first ad, Jake, he didn't even talk about the state of Wisconsin. He was like, my name's Eric Hovde and I'm running for Senate. Great. Of what? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but overall, he's just a bad candidate. There's nothing to me that's likable about him. And even the porn stash is just kind of like,
honestly, man, the mustache is about the most likable thing about the man.
Ooh, that's a very harsh criticism that you've just given him.
Really, he should just say, "Hey, Wisconsin, I'm going to give you a mustache ride. You'll never forget. He'll never win, but at least it'll be funny."
I can see the T-shirts now, man. Thanks for the call, Jake. 855-752-4842. The mentality of Michaels and Hovde, I think, in their ability to relate, I think there's a disconnect there. Certainly, the guy's got to throw in $13 of his own $1 million of his own to get to anything worthwhile. There's no grassroots there. He fired his fundraising team. And, it's kind of hard if you're a candidate that is not inspiring anybody. It's real hard for people to want to give money to you. But he's making some shakeup. Maybe it will do him good with 49 days remaining in this election cycle. Mark from the SAC, you're next. Welcome, Mark. What do you got?
Yeah, as far as Tammy Baldwin being connectable, I mean, I've run into Tammy Baldwin at Woody Street Co-op, talked to her, for a little portion of time, and at the end of the conversation, she gave me a hug.
Yeah.
And I cannot see Eric Hovde actually making that kind of personal contact with him actually going out and doing his own grocery shopping as well. I mean, years ago when I think Tammy might have been still in the state house, but maybe she's a congressional candidate. I used to run her all the time at the kitchen hearth getting her own lunch.
Yeah.
Not having a staff member get up for her, getting her own lunch. I mean, that's the kind of human being that she is. I mean, and when I call Tammy Baldwin's office, usually talk to a real person. Call Ron Johnson's office, always goes to voicemail.
No one wants to take those calls, Mark. I mean, come on. How many people are calling Ron Johnson saying, "Ron, you're doing a hell of a job. Keep it up." You know what I mean?
I mean, they call in to say, "Ron, you're doing a hell of a job."
Right.
Like it's
you're
where
doing a hella job.
No.
No, not a hella job.
No.
It's all going to hell. Thanks for the call, Mark. Appreciate it. 855-752-4842. 855-75-CIVIC. Remember the word of the day, radio. You're listening to the radio unless you downloaded the Civic Media app and check it out there, or the YouTube or Twitter or Facebook. Wanted to throw this out there for your consideration. Kind of brings us up to our next guest. Nancy Pelosi in Madison chides Trump, warns of threat to the U.S. Don't tell Trump. Here is what she said, that the Republican Party has been hijacked. She recalled Trump's baseless comments that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, are eating pets, letting loose on the former president. Here's what she said. I thought this was great. Pelosi, quote, "He projects. He says crazy Nancy. He is crazy. He says crooked Hillary. He's crooked. Every adjective he uses is really about himself. So when he says people are eating cats and dogs, I'm just wondering about him." Right. An equally important firewall, she said, would be Democrats taking control of the U.S. Senate, as she personally recognized Wisconsin candidates seeking to defeat Republican incumbents. It's good for our country. It's absolutely essential that the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, has the gavel as Speaker when Congress votes to accept the results of the Electoral College. Now, she did reflect on her 5 decades in American politics, over 40 years of which she spent in the U.S. House. Her work on the Democratic Party started as her children entered school. She decided to volunteer in politics to fill her time. What bothered me was I'm a mom of 5, and 1 in 5 children goes to bed hungry each night. That was my mission, to be engaged in politics, to prepare candidates, to do grassroots work. Then they came to me and said, "You love the issues, you love policy, you should run for Congress." And she did, and we know that story. The Cap Times putting on the Cap Times Idea Fest. Civic Media is a partner in that. John Nichols from The Nation and the Cap Times is a speaker there, a presenter, an interviewer. He'll join us next.
All veils and misty, streets are blue. Almond looks, that chill divine. Some silken moment goes on forever, and we're leaving broken hearts behind.
And thank you for listening to the Dom Salvia Show. We appreciate you tuning in. We're going to be joined very shortly by our friend John Nichols. He's from the Cap Time. He's from The Nation magazine. And we're going to bring him on right now. John, thank you, man. Working on these new phone numbers. I'm still confused. Welcome to the Dom Salvia Show, man. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm good to be with you, brother. And trust me, you're not the only radio show that's struggled with phones.
I mean, the tech, it's been one of those days, but the streams are up, the phones are working, we're good to go, and we got John Nichols on the line. John, I had seen the Cap Times Idea Fest, and you're involved. Civic Media is a partner in that, and it's going on right now. There's actually a few free tickets for virtual events, and some single night sessions are still available according to the website captimesideafest.com. Let's go there first, John. How's it going, and what's your involvement this year?
Well, it's going very well, and my involvement is relatively extensive. Last night, I interviewed Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who was great.
Yeah.
Really had some powerful things to say about running a major city, the third largest city in the United States, at a very complex time. And so it was a great conversation, and he was super dynamic.
Yeah.
And then after I finished with Brandon Johnson, we had a discussion with former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who's not an unknown figure in our times. Perhaps the most powerful and influential person in America at this point, because of the role that she played in convincing President Biden not to seek a second term. And
yeah, what did she say? She made a comment I saw reported in the Cap Times about some maybe not power, but maybe influence. She was very humble about it, in my opinion, John.
Yeah, she's very humble, but she does it all with a wink of the eye, and kind of a sly look.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth of the matter is she's a very, very sharp political figure, and she knows she knows how to do politics in Washington. She's been at it for the better part of 50 years, and she was very open about her history in politics, kind of coming as she said, as a relatively shy person. Entering into the political dynamics of Washington, and over time figuring them out, spending a lot of time studying it, and ultimately rising to a position where she was third in line of succession for the presidency of the United States.
Yeah, it's
amazing. Or I guess second in line, how you calculate it. And so she was really great, and it was as was Brandon Johnson. So it was a good Monday night. As the week goes on, we're going to have all sorts of remarkable figures, journalists, political leaders, former political leaders. On Wednesday night, I'm going to interview Tommy Thompson.
Yes.
Or Wednesday early evening. And I'm really looking forward to that. I think people are so familiar with Tommy Thompson. He's been around for so long that people, they see him as a permanent fixture in America, or in Wisconsin politics, and to some extent American politics. And he is, to give you a sense of the historical reach of Tommy Thompson, in 1964, he invited Barry Goldwater, the great conservative leader, to Madison and escorted Goldwater around the Capitol and the campus.
Wow.
As a college student. 2 years later, he took on one of the senior members of the state legislature in a Republican primary and beat the guy. And you know what I mean? So his political career stretches back to, literally the mid 1960s.
That's crazy.
And it's not over yet. I know. So, and a lot of revealing things. He's the thing about Thompson is he's a conservative. He's a Republican. There's plenty of people who disagree with him on particular issues. But the one thing that's fascinating about him is that whenever he has been in a position of power, he has generally been one of the more successfully bipartisan leaders. And so that's one of the things I want to talk with him about is, in this incredibly divided moment, are there still ways to figure out how to govern? And he's got a lot to say about that. So I'm looking forward to that. And then right after that finishes, I believe, if I've got my schedule right, Doris Kearns Goodwin will speak, the great historian.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty big deal. She's kind of an amazing figure in both our politics and our literary lives. And then, of course, on Friday night, you've got Liz Cheney, who's also made a little bit of news of late.
Now, the Cap Times Idea Fest, John, folks are listening to Dom Salvia. So John Nichols from the Cap Times and from the Nation magazine talking about the Cap Times Idea Fest. You can find it online. Tommy Thompson and also you talked about the former vice president Liz Cheney, daughter Liz Cheney, conservatives, Republicans. How is this common? I mean, the Ideas Fest. Do you normally bring in conservatives and liberals, progressives and independents and media folks? I mean, what's the overarching goal here, John?
The overarching goal is to be interesting, and I know that sounds kind of glib or casual, but that's pretty much the heart of it.
Yeah.
And so you want to have the people that are shaping the discourse in our times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is, it's going to involve, if you're honest about it, it's going to involve progressives, it's going to involve conservatives, it's going to involve some, more moderate folks, people from across the spectrum. And I guess the standard that I look at when I invite people, or sometimes I do, sometimes other folks do, is that you want to have figures who, can give you a compelling hour, right? Because that's what it is. It's an hour of discussion, some questions from the interviewer, sometimes from the audience. But to give you a compelling hour where you actually get something more than just a soundbite, something more than the usual stuff. And so, as an example, I've known Judy Collins, the singer, for a long time. And so we invited her for Saturday night. She's going to be on at 6.
Nice.
And she's amazing. To give you an example of Judy Collins, she's the person who, like, one of the first people who recorded a song by Bob Dylan. She put her first album out a year before Bob Dylan. And then on one of her early albums, put on 3 Dylan songs. She's the guy who talked Leonard Cohen into going into music.
Oh, wow!
Right? Got him on stage. She's the guy. She's the person. She's the individual that Stephen Stills wrote the song "Sweet Judy Blue Eyes" about, which became a global hit, and you still hear on album radio and blah blah blah. She was a witness in the trial of the Chicago 7. And because she'd been so involved in anti-war politics and had an incredible confrontation with the judge there. She was in Mississippi registering black voters before the Civil Rights Act.
Wow.
She was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The history goes on and on. Her song Bread and Roses was probably the critical song for, kind of helping people to understand the rise of women in the workforce and the unionization of women and stuff like that. So she just got this incredibly long history, and she's very funny and very cool, right? And so again, she's somebody that can give you a compelling hour of discussion, and that's the heart of it. So you're gonna primarily the people who are speaking are journalists and political figures. Obviously, Judy Collins is a cultural figure. You're gonna have a lot of other events that are being held. There's a long schedule people can find online of events that look at issues, things like can we ever have affordable housing in Madison? And so lots of good people, dozens and dozens of folks involved in different seminars and forums. And I have to say, it appears, knock on wood, because things can always evolve one way or the other, it's going okay. Last night we had people lined up an hour, almost an hour and a half before.
Wow, nice, John.
Started.
Excellent.
I know.
Yes.
Folks are showing up. They're showing interest, and why would we be surprised? It's Madison, Wisconsin.
Right.
So
it's a great market for it, John.
People. Absolutely, man.
Folks are listening to the Dom Salvia Show. John Nichols from The Nation, from the Cap Times, talking about the events going on right now at the Cap Times Idea Fest. You can find it online, captimesideafest.com. Before we move on to other topics, John, I just want to get your sense of Tommy Thompson. We had a caller text in. Well, he's supporting Trump, so he's MAGA. Do you alter your conversation with a conservative like Tommy Thompson, who's more of a traditional, at least historically, traditional GOPer, and now he's backing Trump, who a lot of folks take issue with him trying to overthrow the government and all that? I mean, do you address that with a guy like Tommy?
Sure you do. You have a good discussion, but I think that's part of what makes Tommy Thompson so very, very interesting, because he is a lifelong Republican. He's deeply committed, to the Republican Party. It's where he's at. But this party has changed radically. That's what I'm saying. During his 60 years, of being a Republican activist. And so I'm fascinated by what he has to say about that, and how he reconciles it in his own mind. I talk to him a lot, and I will tell you, he is always thinking. He is always, in my experience, very reasonable, very rational, very thoughtful. And I think that's a really useful thing. It gives an insight for folks who, this very divided time. Yeah. Gives people an insight on where folks are at. You can disagree with them. I can tell you, brother, there's an awful lot of people who disagree with me on an awful lot of issues. Right?
Yeah, but normally those issues aren't going to involve, throwing out the Constitution, overthrowing the government. I'm down with the, what should the cap gains be? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the old things we used to argue about, John. This is an entirely different situation. You look what is being fomented in Springfield, Ohio. Donald Trump at the debate. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. Yeah. The Republican, governor from Ohio, pushing back the mayor from the. I mean, it is getting really, really ugly over there. This is nothing new, I guess, historically. Trashing the immigrant population, but it seems to be getting really ugly. John, what's your take on the current situation?
It's ugly. You're right. Yeah. It's about as ugly as I've seen. And I've covered politics I was interested in politics before I covered it. Yeah. Which I guess is a roundabout way of saying that I've been paying attention to this for a ridiculously long time, and seen it at its best and its worst. And what I would tell you is this: I know that America has gone through insane times politically, and I'll give you an example. 100 years ago, when Robert M. La Follette ran for president of the United States from Wisconsin, one of the reasons he ran was because the Ku Klux Klan had effectively insinuated itself into and pretty close to taken over both major political parties. The Klan was a major presence in the Democratic and the Republican parties. Yeah. Didn't mean they ran everything, but they were there, and they were calling a lot of shots. The Klan was on the march nationally, not just in the South, but in northern states. I mean, when you think of that, it's like that was pretty bad.
That was bad.
70 years ago. Yeah, that's awful.
That's bad. Yep.
And horrifying and scary. 70 years ago, Joe McCarthy was the most influential guy in Washington. Yeah. And running a Red Scare that was, not just messing with, the politics of the country, but the culture. All sorts of topics. It was, things were really getting ugly. They were putting people in jail for their political beliefs. Yeah, that was 70 years ago. I mean, and even more recently. I mean, you look at, I'm trying to think of examples. There's so many of them along the way, but we've been bitterly divided. At all sorts of points. I mean, you look at the circumstance in the early days of Barack Obama's presidency, when you had the Tea Party movement, and things that they were saying about Obama.
Well, but back then, and John, we're almost out of time, man. But I just look forward to the days where the tan suit's the biggest problem. John Nichols from the Cap Times, from The Nation magazine. Find him on Twitter at Nichols Uprising. John, thank you for your time, man. Always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
It's a total honor to be with you, brother. Good luck with the show.
Thanks, man. Folks, this is a Dom Salvia Show, coming back with your calls, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Yeah, welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show. Phone lines are open 855-752-4842. I want to thank John Nichols, my most recent guest and friend. He's from the Cap Times, from the Nation magazine. Big part over at the Cap Times IdeaFest.com. You can go check that out. And if you haven't got tickets yet, apparently they still have a few single tickets open. You can also pay attention, watch online. CapTimesIdeaFest.com. Civic Media, a partner in that endeavor. Madison's a great spot to go see that. So if you have some time and you're interested, go check it out. Again, the word of the day for the statewide Civic Media contest is radio. It is radio. Go for the green or gold. So you can text radio, download the Civic Media app, text the word radio for your chance to win in this statewide contest. Weekly prizes. Grand prize, a trip to Green Bay for a game against, I believe it is the New Orleans. So we encourage you to do so. Again, thank you, John Nichols. J.D. Vance, came on a little bit early with Megan. If you folks, we're kind of figuring out how the Dom Salvia show is going to go here. A lot of it's been kind of like the Dom and Friends thing. And Megan and I are friends, and Matt Rothschild are going to come on tomorrow. I think Earl's coming on Thursday. We got James Santel coming on once again on Friday. Megan and I are going to swap a couple of segments during the week. I'll come in a little earlier one day, I believe Monday or Wednesday. I'm not sure which days we're doing yet, but I'll come in a half hour early. One of the days she'll stay a half hour later. So we're going to have a lot of fun with a lot of the favorite personalities and favorite folks that I love to hang out with and talk politics with, man, because that is what this is all about. I appreciate you just doing the hard work on the J.D. Vance sound. Now, J.D. Vance apparently is very upset with all this rhetoric that's going on. And he had some comments on the assassination. Apparently he wanted an apology from the media today. We'll maybe get to that as well. But let's hear what he had to say, starting with cut number 2. Here is that's just cut number 3, J.D. Vance on the attempted assassination. Please, Jess.
I promise I will do my part to tone down the rhetoric, but in particular, the people telling you that Donald Trump needs to be eliminated, you guys need to cut it out or you're going to get somebody hurt. No one has tried to kill Kamala Harris in the last couple of months, and 2 people now have tried to kill Donald Trump in the last couple of months. I'd say that's pretty strong evidence that the left needs to tone down the rhetoric and needs to cut this crap out. Somebody's going to get hurt by it.
Well, that's why that's not evidence. Causation, correlation. What are we talking about here, J.D. Vance? And nobody, I have not said it. Nobody said it that I am aware of. If you can give me an audio clip or show me a quote where someone on the left or someone in the media, or be it Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, say we need to eliminate Donald Trump. That has never been said.
No.
We need to defeat him roundly. He needs to answer for his crimes.
Yeah.
He needs to go to trial, a jury of his peers for his crime. He needs to be sentenced for his convictions. He needs to be roundly rejected for his racism, his misogyny, his sexual assault, his stealing of our crown jewels of security and the hoarding of the secret documents in Mar-a-Lago. He has to answer for a lot of things. And I want him healthy. I want him happy. I want him standing in court. I want him alive as long as possible so he can serve out, if convicted by a jury of his peers, on the crimes for which grand juries were impaneled. They were given evidence, and multiple times, over and over and over and over again, decided with the evidence that was seen that he indeed should be charged with those crimes. That's not wishing death or harm or elimination of anybody. That's called consequence. That's called being involved in the political process. That's called being called out for your asinine and racist and fraudulent and false statements. I can say those things, and I can be angry about those things. I can be passionate. Anger is just like hard. That's hard. I can be passionate about those things. When Donald Trump, when someone wants to be president of the United States, sends out a tweet that says, "I hate so-and-so." Is that ratcheting up the rhetoric, or is that toning it down? J.D. Vance. What do you do to people you hate, J.D. Vance? So the projection continues from the right.
Mm-hmm.
And we can say it over and over and over again. Political violence, violence of any kind is not condoned, is not okay. It is not part of the discourse, should not be. Of course, it's a fact of life in some degree. We are a flawed species.
That is true.
I'm just
That is
saying.
very,
But that's the
very
endeavor
true.
of civility. Sure. And I can have very harsh words for people like J.D. Vance and Donald Trump and still not wish them harm. That's okay. When someone says they're going to be a dictator, you can believe them. And if someone says they're going to be a dictator, they are not espousing and clamoring to stand up for the U.S. Constitution, to represent you in self-governance. That's not any of those things. Those are his words that I'm just repeating back to you and to him and to J.D. Vance. And when J.D. Vance comes out on Sunday with the Dana Bash and says, yeah, if I got to make stuff up to shine a light on the suffering of the American people because of Kamala Harris, and I'm going to do that. No, dude, that's not what you're supposed to do. You want to be the meme candidate? Okay. But that's not serious.
no.
I mean, you're the senator of the state of Ohio, so you're running for the vice presidency. What did you do when you were running? Was that a problem then? Because apparently these folks from Haiti came in legally starting around 5 years ago. And my math, and don't like to do math on the radio, Jess, but my math says that was Donald Trump's administration. And certainly it continued. Are you offering more federal help? You know what I'm saying? If there's a problem, you don't spread lies and racist tropes about the savages eating your pets. I mean, come on.
No, you know what happens?
What?
That's insightful language.
Oh, yes, that is insightful.
That's
language.
hateful language.
And it's almost like it would cause some folks to, I don't know, call in bomb threats.
Yeah.
And make kids stay home because you're threatening to bomb the schools. Make parents stay home because you're threatening to bomb the municipal buildings.
Mm-hmm.
That is insightful language, to your point, Jess. Saying someone should be held accountable for their actions. Saying someone should be held accountable for their words. That's not inciting. That's civil. That's an expectation of civility. That's why we do this thing. That's why you join us, 855-752-4842. Coming back with a happier happy hour next.
broadcasting across the state of Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and around the world on the Civic Media app. This is the Dom Salvia Show. And now, here's your host, Dom Salvia.
Welcome to the Dom Salvia Show. Happy days to us all. Appreciate you tuning in, listening, joining this conversation. 855-752-4842. Got a big hour for you. We're still addressing the what do you call it? The rhetoric, I guess. The right, very upset, apparently. It's the rhetoric of the left. Maybe folks like me criticizing the the former administration, the former president. I'm okay with the current administration, honestly. Because if by comparison, everything's normal compared to what is being offered from Trump and J.D. Vance. It is just beyond the pale. And I love our guest in the last hour, John Nichols, going to interview Tommy Thompson at the Cap Times Idea Fest coming up, I believe, later this week. And you know, Tom, a lot of people love Tommy here in the state of Wisconsin. Man, he's got this image. You know, he brought bipartisan votes together. He was governor for a long time. How does a guy like that, which a lot of people, and John Nichols and a lot of Democrats will respect and say nice things about Tommy Thompson, how does Tommy, you know, reconcile his traditional GOP beliefs and obviously his history of working across the aisle and representing the great state of Wisconsin for years with what we see going on in what's left of the Republican Party in the MAGA Party. And I'm going to continue to be critical. And I think everyone, you know, if that's how you feel, if that's what the facts drive you to be, then that's okay. Mm-hmm. That is okay. It's not okay to wish death upon people. That's not good. It's not okay to tell people to go eliminate someone. That's not okay. I would even go so far to say is it's not okay if you're a presidential candidate to use your social media and millions of followers to say, I hate somebody.
Right.
As that is the only point of that text or message. I hate somebody.
Yeah, you literally cannot dig deeper into that to say, oh, it's a very nuanced position.
No, those were the only words.
No, that is literally just hateful rhetoric.
Literally. It's in there.
Literally,
it's
right there.
It's right there. And I'm not sure that Trump knows literally or figuratively because he said they were literally crucifying people on his trial.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Remember that? Oh, they're literally crucifying these witnesses. Oh, no, I don't think that's literal, sir. I think they're okay.
Uh-huh.
They may have been cross-examined, maybe been a little harsh, but pretty sure they weren't pounding nails into their wrists, arms. I don't even know.
It depends on the style, really.
Doesn't it, though?
Yeah.
Doesn't it, though? The intricacies of crucifixion. The New York Times has a piece from yesterday, Trump outraged in the modern era of political violence. I want to jump down into this piece. This was written by, Peter Baker, reporting from Washington at the New York Times. In the body towards the end of this piece is the meat, in my opinion. I'd like to share this with you and get your thoughts on it, 855-752-4842. At the heart of today's eruption of political violence is Mr. Trump, a figure who seems to inspire people to make threats or take actions both for him and against him. He has long favored the language of violence in his political discourse, encouraging supporters to beat up hecklers, threatening to shoot looters and undocumented migrants, mocking a near-fatal attack on the husband of Democratic House Speaker, and suggesting that a general he deemed disloyal be executed. Executed. Now, while Mr. Trump insists his fiery speech to supporters on January 6th of 2021 was not responsible for the subsequent ransacking of the Capitol, he resisted pleas from advisors and his own daughter, not the beautiful Ivanka, his own daughter. He resisted pleas from them on that day to do more to stop the assault. He even suggested that the mob might be right to want to hang his vice president and has since embraced the attackers as patriots, whom he may pardon if elected again.
Interesting.
Rhetoric. Wow.
Rhetoric.
Words. Can he just shoot him in the legs? Didn't he say that about the Black Lives Matter protesters?
Yeah.
Just shoot him in the legs. Yeah, in the legs. It'll be fine. Shoot him in the legs.
Yeah, we should also not forget what Donald Trump's rallying cry is at all of his rallies. Fight, fight, fight. It's not ambiguous. It doesn't sound like they're saying,
Well,
engage in politics.
But Kamala Harris says when we fight, we win.
Yeah, I know, but
fight. Fight. I get it. But and what is the point? What is the level, right? Everyone's got their own, and the context, how you say it, and those things matter certainly. So I don't want to get overly sensitive on it, but I also think people need to, understand and embrace the fact that maybe this rhetoric isn't great. And if you think I'm wrong, you think I'm being a little hyperbolic, if my rhetoric for calling out the guy for what he's doing, you think that's out of bounds, please, I'm down. Let me know. 855-752-4842. Back to the Times. Trump does not pause to reflect on the impact of his own words. Just last week, his false pet-eating accusations against Haitian migrants during his debate with Harris were quickly followed up by bomb threats that turned life upside down in Springfield, Ohio, and he did nothing to discourage them. After 33 bomb threats, Ohio's governor, a Republican, I might add, said Monday that law enforcement would conduct daily sweeps of schools in the town. Because there's nothing else for those cops to do, right? Everything's fine. Yeah, you got to stop everything and go sweep the schools because of the rhetoric of the former president. Rhetoric, it sounds so official and fancy. Lies. Racist tropes. Lies. Asked by a reporter if he denounced the bomb threats, Trump demurred. How do you demur when you're talking about bomb threats? You don't demur. The answer is yes. I denounced the bomb threats. But no, here's what he said. I don't know what happened with the bomb threats. I know that it's been taken over by illegal migrants, and that's a terrible thing that happened. I don't know what happened with the bomb threats. I know that it's been taken over by illegal migrants, and that's a terrible thing that happened. Not the bomb threats. Cannot denounce the bomb. If you do not denounce the bomb threats, you essentially, I would say, something to that magnitude, you kind of endorse it.
Yeah.
If you don't denounce violent insurrection and attacking of the police officers at the Capitol, you kind of endorsed it.
If you don't admit that you lost an election, you kind of claim that you won.
Kind of like that. And that seems like it would rile some people up.
It does indeed.
Especially if they believe you. Folks, don't believe them. Now, Trump's critics have at times employed the language of violence as well. Come on. Although not as extensively and repeatedly at the highest levels. The former president's allies distributed a video compilation online of various Trump opponents saying they'd like to punch him in the face or the like. Pardon. Some of the more extreme voices on social media in the past day have mocked or minimized a close call at the Florida golf course. Trump allies often decry what they call Trump derangement syndrome, the notion that his critics despise him so much that they've lost their minds. Nope, I am quite sane. Thank you very much. Anger, of course, has long been the animating force of Mr. Trump's time in politics, both the anger he stirs among his supporters against his rivals and the anger that he generates among opponents who come to loathe him. Loathe. Predictions that he might rethink that after he narrowly escaped death in Butler proved ephemeral. By halfway through the acceptance speech at the RNC 5 days later, he was back to himself.
Oh, it wasn't even halfway through.
like 20 minutes
20 minutes
into a 90-minute.
93 minutes.
Oh, my God. It was so long and terrible. Let's see. Okay. He was back to himself. But it is a measure of how much political violence has become a part of modern American culture. Not accepted, perhaps, but more and more expected. That the latest incident may make no more difference than the first. The shock from the shooting in Butler wore off relatively quickly as attention turned to other developments. The shock from this one may not last any longer, Peter Baker writes at the Times. He's the chief White House correspondent for the New York Times. Yeah, saying you want to punch Trump in the face, those kinds of things, not good either. But those, I think I put those, if we're going to equate the terrible things that are said, the lies on the Haitians and then say you're going to deport them to Venezuela. I mean, it makes no sense. And that's the ramblings and musings of an old man, an angry, racist old man. 855-752-4842. Is that too harsh? I mean,
no.
If that was my uncle sitting around the table, I'm pretty sure I'd say it. If that was some guy sitting down the bar from me and was acting like that and saying those things, I think I'd say it. think I'd say it. Dave Zwiefel from the Cap Times had an article out recently on this. Maybe we'll cover that a little bit as well. Saying basically a young bartender. So I told him as they were lamenting and talking about the Haitian migrants eating the pets and the dogs. That's not happening, folks, just for the record. Like the young bartender that Zwiefel was talking to was like, yeah, that's real. What? What?
Well, yeah, the former president said so.
I mean, and he's the president, and he's rich, so he's right.
I mean, yeah.
He told me he's right all the time.
He's got all the qualifications that he needs to be right all the time.
He's a real man of genius.
Oh, my God.
855-752-4842. Hell, just ask him. Dick from Madison, you are up. Welcome, Dick. Happy days, man. What do you got for us?
Well, right in my general neighborhood, there's a lady, you maybe seen it in the news. She's got quite a few signs up.
Yeah.
And she's been having them spray painted at night. So they finally got pictures of the guy, and the police department, put it out on the news this morning locally. This guy's coming at night and spray painting over the signs. Okay, that's one thing. But then in the same general neighborhood, I found this about a month ago. There's a guy that the whole lawn's peppered with stuff. He's got Trump on the front door, the one where he's all buffed out like a bodybuilder.
Oh, come on.
Junk. Oh, yeah. And you name it, he's got it. All kinds of stuff. But then he has some homemade signs that I think maybe the FBI should go visit the guy.
Oh, really? Like what?
One says, prepare for violence, and the other one says, ammo up.
Seems a little harsh, man.
Yeah, I think maybe the guy needs a little visit from the authorities to see what exactly he means by all this. I don't think he's talking about, early squirrel hunting or something. I don't know.
No, man. Well, you know how apparently, and thanks for the call, Dick, the Republicans are adamant about getting the proper licensing to hunt the geese. I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely their concern.
Or they're just, raging against the black folks because that's what racists do during election time. Folks, this is the Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842. There is some scary polling, perhaps on what Dick's saying, talking about that guy. Like 14% of those polled Republicans said they would take action if Trump lost the election. What does that mean? 855-75-CIVIC. Welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC's going to get back to the lines in just a moment. Be patient, callers. Jess will screen your calls. But I threw out this piece from Dave Zwiefel. Want to give it to you in its entirety, not to misquote Mr. Dave Zwiefel from the Cap Times. Here's quickly what he said. Then we'll get to the callers, 855-752-4842. We were discussing the presidential debate over a beer the other day when made an offhand remark about how ludicrous it was that Donald Trump claimed that Haitians in Springfield, Ohio are eating their neighbors' family pets. It's true, you know, the young bartender surprisingly interjected. There's lots of evidence that immigrants are killing cats and wild geese and even beheading dogs.
Oh, that's a new one.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that one before. Lots of evidence, apparently, according to the young bartender. Zwiefel writes, he was deadly serious. That reminded me of how so many Americans get caught up in the quote-unquote news spread on social media, which is amplified by conspiracy theorists with a political agenda. Even though there's no connection to the truth, their lies are swallowed whole. That's really hard for me to grasp. I mean, if you see it, does it make it so? I mean, I remember back in the day, before the internet, I read it in a book. Yeah, and? It doesn't make it true. Oh, I saw it online. Someone told me. Oh.
Well, I saw it on the internet, so that means it must be true.
Must be true. I laughed out loud, Zwiefel writes during the debate when Trump declared, in Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. We still got to get that song one of these days. They're eating the kids. I know. You know we have to, though. It's in my mind. Every time I hear this quote now, I got this little beat in my head of the song.
Tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. We promise, folks. There's a song about it. Of course there is. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. The quote from Donald Trump during the debate. Zwiefel from the Cap Times right. That came as news to the people in Springfield. Officials in the city, Ohio City, of about 60,000 said they had no credible reports or specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community, called the claims making the rounds on the internet a persistent frustration. Now, Springfield has been grappling with an estimated 20,000 Haitian immigrants who have moved there after being granted temporary protective status because of the violence in their home country. Ironically enough, the violence is now being stirred up, perhaps against them, at least in the form of the bomb threats, because of the rhetoric of J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. But, never mind that. Many have found jobs in Springfield, and some credit them with helping revive the local economy. But an accident involving a Haitian driver hitting a school bus last year, which resulted in the death of an 11-year-old, apparently was a spark that ignited the wild rumors about the immigrants' behavior. Now, we played the father's remarks on that, basically begging for people to stop. Do not invoke his son's name. He was very, very supportive of the migrant community. And said something to the effect like, I wish my son, his 11-year-old boy, who was killed on this terrible accident on the bus, that would have been done by a 60-year-old white man instead of a migrant Haitian. They wouldn't be having this conversation. His son wouldn't be used as political fodder by J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. I mean, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking, folks. You imagine being that parent? Having, after this, a year of grief, to put together yourself enough to write some words down and push back on the former president and his vice presidential candidate for invoking the name of your dead son to further their political ambition. No citizen should ever have to go through that. The killing of a son, or the death of a son in a car accident. I mean, awful. Anybody. I mean, come on. And then to have to defend his name against mega extremists when he's just trying to deal with his own grief and his family. There are consequences, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, bartender talking to Dave Zwiefel from the Cap Times. There's consequences to that. According to the Washington Post, a Facebook post quoted an unnamed person, we talked about this yesterday, who claimed to witness a Haitian family hanging a dead cat in a tree branch and skinning it like a hunter would dress a dead deer. That was quickly picked up by a conservative account of Elon Musk, who amplified by Musk himself, along with the likes of Charlie Kirk, winners here, and picked up by, wait, congressional Republicans, vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance, and Trump himself at the debate. If these guys are so easily, assuming they believe it, and who knows what they really believe, do you trust their judgment on anything?
No.
No.
Absolutely
at some point, right? Okay. Just want to be clear that we're all on the same page here, that you're living in the same world as I am, Jess, and our audience, we all have the same expectations of critical thinking. Not just taking up a rumor and hurting a family and a community and extending their resources and causing 33 bomb threats, maybe it's a tough one, but if the story didn't get wheels, maybe those bomb threats would not have happened. Now, the snowballing story has even spawned a billboard in Arizona with a message, "Eat less cats, vote Republican," and internet memes using AI to show Trump hugging a cat and a duck. There was a cat eating incident several weeks ago, but it occurred in Canton, Ohio, where a woman with mental issues killed a cat and was suspected of eating it. She wasn't Haitian, and she was born in the U.S. Well, that's fine then. I mean, as long as it's an American citizen killing and eating those cats, that's okay. As long as it's an American citizen getting in a car accident and killing that 11-year-old boy whose father had to heartbreakingly go out in public and defend his dead son, well, that's okay. If it's a murder of school kids by a crazed American teenage white boy, totally fine. Totally fine. But if any of those folks don't have the proper immigration status or citizenship status, because these Haitians folks, they're legal. They have the proper status. They have the status that the Republicans claim they want. Legal immigration.
But Dom, they're only legal because that's what the law is.
Oh, right. Well, that's the thing. That's the law.
Is that the thing? Is that the point?
Maybe? I'm not sure. I think it's because they're just mad because they're black and it riles up their fan base. Meanwhile, a photo of a black man carrying a dead goose was also not taken in Springfield, but in Columbus, and no one has been able to pinpoint who the man is or where he's from. Now, J.D. Vance has been a key figure in promoting the pet eating story, tipped his hat about his motives when he posted on X that it's possible, of course, that all these rumors will turn out to be false, unquote. Yeah, you think? But why wouldn't you default to that instead of assuming it's true and saying it's possible they're false?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why not assume it's false and say it's possible, it's true, but we need to see the evidence? Why
not
people,
wait to say, let's see what is actually going on here?
Because the debate happened. He had to say it.
Yeah.
And then he said, keep the cat memes going. Ultimately, the fact that this story relies on dubious evidence, unproven claims, fear-mongering rather than facts doesn't stop the spread at all. Mike Rothschild, who specializes in researching conspiracy theories, told the New York Times, the people sharing the memes want it to be true, so it's true for them. Ultimately, those people will keep spreading the story no matter how little evidence exists to back it up. 855-752-4842. Come back with your calls. And welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842, 855-75 callers. Be patient. We got James Kelly checking in. He's Civic Media's own Northwest Wisconsin News Bureau Chief. James, up in Eau Claire, J.D. Vance giving a speech again, the second in 6 weeks in Eau Claire in Wisconsin. James, welcome back, man. What's going on up there?
Well, everybody's filing out now. A lot of excitement towards the end of the speech. He took some questions from reporters, starting with local people like me and some local TV stations, and then moving towards the New York Times, CNN, NBC, all of them. Now, towards the end of those questions from the bigger outlets, the crowd started to turn against the media a little bit with some of the questions that were being asked. They did not particularly care for them. Yes, as expected, there were a few jabs taken at the media during this speech.
Oh, James, can you articulate any specific examples? What did the crowd specifically not like?
Well, it opened more with an attack on Vice President Harris, saying that she wouldn't even do interviews with the friendly American media. Now, that's not much on its own. I wouldn't normally say, okay, that's a jab at the media. But later on, when we started talking into the Springfield stuff and getting into the way the media has covered that situation, it started to become a little more aggressive, saying, journalists aren't doing their jobs and they're harassing people in the town. And, constituents are afraid to speak out because they're afraid of having 12 cameras chasing them around.
Wow. That's very interesting, James Kelly. I want the comment about the taking questions from the American media. What was that quote again, if you would mind?
Oh, he just about Vice President Harris not taking questions from, reporters at any of these rallies or events. And, she's done a couple bigger scale interviews in the meantime. That was more of a reference to the last time that he was in Eau Claire when Vice President Harris hadn't really done a major interview since becoming the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party. And that was kind of a small slight towards saying, you know what, the media is a little bit more friendly towards Vice President Harris, and even still, she won't do those interviews.
Interesting. James Kelly, Civic Media's own in Eau Claire, the J.D. Vance rally. That begs the question. We've been talking about it, the lies of the Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio. How much of that, what was the crowd reaction when that topic was broached?
It's interesting to say. It wasn't really the crowd reacting to the story itself, more so that the jabs that Senator Vance was taking about the situation, about the media, how we're covering the situation. He spoke a lot about how, as expected, he's hearing from constituents who are saying that this is happening in their community. As you and I both know, just because someone says something doesn't mean it's necessarily true.
He also can't provide a name, could he? Any constituent?
Oh, I didn't provide a name.
No.
Yeah, well, they're afraid of being chased down by cameras. They want their names kept out of it.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
when I was in high school, I had a boyfriend, but he went to a different school.
So from Canada, right?
Yeah, so I could tell you his name, but it wouldn't mean anything to you because he was at a different school.
Wow. James Kelly, obviously the words that come out of a vice presidential candidate and current senator of the state of Ohio, they do carry some weight. Was there any other highlights? What was your question, James, of the vice presidential wannabe?
So I asked him about the rural health care situation, more on a nationwide scale. But as you know, here in Eau Claire, we had those 2 abrupt hospital closures earlier this year, as well as all the clinics. So I wanted to get his take. And for what it's worth, he said early on he was going to try to answer tough questions with actual answers. I'm not sure that's what I got quite from it. But he started to talk about how we need to stop providing health care for illegal immigrants and paying for health care for them because that's what's destroying the system, and expanding offerings around rural health care areas, but didn't really get into specifics on what policies his administration with former President Trump would enact to reach those goals of encouraging more hospitals to be active in rural communities and creating more competition. He didn't really get into the policies that would lead to that, because as we know, hospitals need money to function. Money has to come from somewhere. Is it the patients or is it the state? It brings up a lot of questions. When I spoke to employees of HSHS after the hospital closures were announced, almost every single one of them said the problem was that Medicare and Medicaid was not big enough, and they weren't getting enough reimbursements for the hospital to continue to operate.
James Kelly, Civic Media's Northwest Wisconsin News Bureau Chief. Thank you for checking in, James. Keep doing the great work. We appreciate you. 855-752-4842. We appreciate the audience as well. Let's get to it. Troy from Mount Horeb, welcome. You're up, Troy. What do you got for us?
Hey, first of all, spitballing a show name, Salvia Hair.
Salvia Hair?
Yeah, like silver hair kind of play on it. Never mind. If I got to explain it, it didn't work.
All right. But I love the fact, love the fact you're trying, Troy.
I apologize.
Oh, man, you never apologize for brainstorming, man. That's what we do. It's a safe space here, man.
I appreciate that. So, on Humpty.
Yes.
The Humpty candidate is in disarray.
The Humpty campaign is in disarray.
Yeah, there you go. So you do it better than I do. And one more thing.
Yes, sir.
About the gentleman who they're bringing up his kid. My brother-in-law lost his kid 7 years ago. He's still not over that.
No, I don't know if you ever get over it, Troy.
No, I can't imagine you do. But, for it to only be a year and to be bringing that up like that, and the poor guy doesn't want it, that's just awful.
It is, Troy, and thank you for saying that, man, and sorry for your loss as well, man. I mean, it's always tough. It's never an easy thing, man. This life we live, it's hard enough as it is, let alone having to deal with the accidents and the weird health things, and the life itself. To have to add to that burden the weight of pushing back against the former president of the United States for just inciting, hatred and bomb threats, and spreading lies in the name of your son. I mean, it's I can't, there's so many awful parts to it. And it's like so many stories, Jess, I swear to God, we talk about these things, and I think, as I'm going through my head, I'm thinking, man, if that was me, if that was someone I knew, someone I cared about, I mean, how do you process that? How do you not lose your mind?
I don't know. I genuinely do not know.
Wow. Well, the human body, the mind is an amazing thing. We can cope with all sorts of things when the trauma is there. But to have to be forced to address it because of a political mind wander of a former president and his lackey VP pick, putting your son and your town at risk, is so uncalled for. And folks, if you haven't seen it, Google it. It's worth it. It is heartbreaking and inspiring in some regards, because the guy pushes back gently, eloquently. I mean, he wasn't calling for names. He wasn't calling for anyone to be eliminated. He was just asking, basically, if I may paraphrase, keep his son's name out of your damn mouth. 855-752-4842. Let's keep going on the lines. Wisco, Paul, you're up. Welcome, Paulie. What do you got? Hey, Paulie. Paul. Where's Paul?
Calling Paul.
Calling Paul. All right, Paul. Figure it out, man. 855-752-4842. I think Paul's used to the rotary dial, man.
Oh,
that might be one of those fancy smartphones. Is it smart, Paul? I'm not sure. Call me back, man. 855-752-4842. Tom from West Dallas. Welcome, Tom. What do you got?
Hey, good morning or afternoon, something like that.
Yes. Hey, Tom.
Just point out this morning. Hey, this morning I was watching Civic Media on your Civic Media. My God.
Keep going, man. You'll talk your way through it. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Long day.
Yeah.
And anyways, My Touch Network was showing a clip from Fox News with Marita Bartiromo interviewing one of Trump's spokespeople, and Maria goes, "So, how is Trump doing after this latest assassination attempt?" And they're saying, or she's saying, "Oh, he's doing just fine. He's a little rattled and all this, and but he's coming out on top and all that." They were acting like he was in a war zone and like everyone was shooting at him, and the guy never even got close to Trump. I mean, these guys, they just milk it for what they can. I'm appalled by the whole thing, but.
Well, and I get it, and Tom, and thanks for the call, man. Listen, it's got to be rattling. You know what I'm saying, Tom? Yeah, to 6 weeks ago, take one to the ear, and then have another guy lurking in the bushes for you. And granted, Trump doesn't seem to be the kind of guy that would be rattled like that. But I mean, man, that's got to be tough. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So I hear what you're saying, and certainly I think that the campaign and Trump himself and some of the righties cheapen it when they try to raise money off it right away. It's just, come on, this is some serious stuff, you guys. And if you want everyone to have some look at themselves and perhaps try to change the tenor and the tone and the rhetoric, come up with the words you want. Maybe you shouldn't add a dollar sign to it right away.
Maybe. I mean, maybe wait like a day.
A day?
2 days?
So
thoughts and prayers for the first day?
No. Like I said on Mega's show, thankfully no one got hurt. And now is the perfect time to talk about how a felon got his hands on a weapon like that and got so close to the former president. I mean, now's a good time to talk about gun safety, right?
Yeah.
How many Republicans or the Fox Newsies have brought this up and say, hey, we need to reevaluate our laws. How did this guy get this gun? No one, I haven't heard that whatsoever.
I haven't heard that at all.
Because if something would have happened, and thankfully it didn't, if someone would have been killed like the last time, but some Trump supporters, man, just going to a political rally and I'm dead. That's not okay ever. No. And their family having to deal with that. And then, Trump playing it off. I mean, it's just, to Tom's point, are they reacting in the proper quote unquote way? I don't know, man. Until someone takes a shot at me, all I can do is try to empathize and say, man, I would be rattled. I'd be a little concerned about that. Everyone should be. We all should be. It's not a game. A lot of folks act like it is. 855-752-4842. People's words matter. 855-75-CIVIC. I don't know if I believe it, but Paulie says he's back. Hey, Paulie, welcome back. What do you got for us?
Hi, Dom. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Welcome back.
Oh, that's cool. Thanks for this, sir. First of all, Trump Vance, they have no policy except for 2025 plan. That's their policy. Read that. And, this talk, violent talk, it goes back 10 years. And, Dom, you were at the rallies. You go back with this guy at least, let's see, 10 years, right? 9-10 years you were at the rallies, and It hasn't changed any. And the other thing that I don't get is J6 is on video. You can
Right.
get it anywhere and watch the video. I mean, it's not a hoax. And like I said, you were a witness to his rallies, and I don't get it. But Taylor Swift, I'm going to bring her up really quick. If she didn't have bodyguards already, she's going to need them now because he tweeted out, "I hate Taylor Swift."
Yeah,
so
terrible.
You know what? The woman did no harm to anybody except participate in democracy.
Exactly.
And I
Thank
think
you,
she's
Paul.
totally
That's the
awesome.
entire point. What was Taylor Swift's crime? Not supporting Donald Trump. That is why Donald Trump hates Taylor Swift. And just for the record out there, if that's the case, and he's not talking about her music, I don't know. I'm assuming not, because I'm assuming it's because of the endorsement of Kamala Harris after that.
The timing tracks.
Yeah, it does. It does. So if Donald Trump hates people that don't support him, then Donald Trump hates the majority of this country who voted against him. Let's think about that for a minute. 855-752-4842. Last segment with your calls. And welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show, last segment of the day. If you got something to say, hit us up on the lines. Talk or text 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. A few from the texters, not ignoring you, just, getting into the new swing of things here. Gary, Trump thinks he's invincible. Well, I mean, don't we all? Sometimes. Let's see. Thank you. Pardon me. You're welcome. Let's see. The next keyword. Oh, folks, we know we've been doing this statewide competition here. The goal for the green or gold text to win contest, download the app. We give out words of the day. The next time it will be 7 a.m. tomorrow. Tune into your favorite Civic Media station for that. And we're going to do it all again tomorrow. A little bit of update here on the security. I think this is hell. If there's something bipartisan that we can get around, maybe this is it. House GOP leaders seek vote on bill to give Trump and Harris same level of security protection as Biden. After the second apparent attempt on Trump's life, House GOP leaders said tonight they want to vote this week on a bipartisan bill that would ensure Harris and Trump get the same level of security protection as President Joe Biden. Majority Leader Steve Scalise said this: the goal's to have it on the floor this week. We can't keep delaying and not having the proper level of protection for candidates for president, especially when you look at President Trump having direct threats now multiple times and the good fortune of being the reason it didn't happen. Now, the bill, sponsored by Republicans and Democrats, Mike Lawler, a Republican from New York, and Richie Torres, also a Democrat from New York, would direct the director of the Secret Service to apply the same standards for determining the number of agents required to protect presidents, vice presidents, and major presidential and vice presidential candidates. House Speaker Mike Johnson told reporters today he called the White House about enhancing Trump's security. We're going to do everything we can, Johnson said. We have an obligation. This is not a partisan issue. We have a nominee for president, probably the most threatened political figure in history. This is a no-brainer, so we're going to do what we can. Lawmakers left Johnson's office tonight saying they expect the security legislation to come to the floor for a vote this week. I mean, the most threatened political figure, I think John Kennedy has something to say about that.
I was going to say Lincoln might.
There might be someone. Okay. We'll take the positive. Yeah. Hello. Get that done. Are you kidding me? Oh, yeah, and keep the government running. Maybe we'll get to that. We'll see. We'll see. 855-752-4842. Eddie from Watertown, you next. Welcome, Andy. What do you got for us?
Well, there was something about a certain, it was Gerald Ford, and they said this is really hard to protect you on the golf course, and he switched, whatever. But Trump cannot he's been told this is way too difficult to protect you here. I don't know exactly the situation. It was like they said, there's a road right there. And, that's probably why this guy was there with a gun trying to protect him. But I don't know. I think of that Shirley MacLaine movie where the crazy old ex-first lady, they had to try to figure out how to protect her and she'd push it too far. But Trump doesn't care, and he makes all this money by having them at his golf course, which they say is just terrible.
Yeah, I know. Hey, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Why are all these Hovde signs on these farms? Because didn't he say something about farmers being lazy?
I believe there was some comment that I believe Hovde said that was misconstrued. I don't know, what is it about rich guys telling Wisconsin citizens that they don't work hard enough? I get a little tired of that, but I love your take always, Andy. Thank you. Appreciate it. 855-752-4842. Callers, be patient. I just want to throw this one out there as well. I referenced it earlier in the show. USA Today, Aaron Mansfield. Nearly half of Republicans say they won't accept the results of the presidential election if their candidate loses. And some say they would, quote, take action to overturn the results, according to data released today. About a quarter of Democrats say they wouldn't accept the results if their candidate loses. What? Huh? And fewer Democrats than Republicans said they would take action to overturn the results. Whoa, what? The nonpartisan World Justice Report, which keeps an index of how strong the rule of law is in more than 100 countries, gathered the data as part of a larger study. Polls conducted through online interviews with over 1,000 American households between June 10th and June 18th. Now, the report did not ask what specific action they would take to overturn the election results. Just that 46% of Republicans, 27% of Democrats wouldn't accept the results, and 14% of Republicans, compared to 11% of Democrats, said they would, quote, take action. Now, Elizabeth Anderson, the group's executive director, said the results are kind of startling and amount to about 1/3 of Americans being unwilling to accept presidential election results if their candidates lose. Come on, people.
That doesn't seem like a good prognostic for anything.
Well, if chaos is the goal,
well,
there you go.
Certainly.
Yeah, well done. 11% of Democrats, 14% of Republicans. All right, your candidate loses. Something's wrong. Maybe that they just didn't lose, can't accept that. And what action they would take?
That's a very classical stage of
what action? Maybe a recount? Sure. Yeah, and every legal possibility. I hope if Kamala Harris loses, that they have any concerns, they will pursue to the legal ends everything they could possibly do to make sure that all the votes were counted correctly. And Trump had those opportunities as well. He just lost them all. Well, 61 out of 63, something like that. 855-752-4842. Tom from Madtown, you will have the last word today, Tom. Welcome. What do you got?
Hey, Dom. Laura Loomer talking about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz campaign partners with Pro-Antifa Brewery to raise funds for pro-Kamala Harris billboard campaign and volunteer recruitment. So basically, I'm touring with the Minocqua Get Out the Vote tour.
Oh, right.
So Laura Loomer got these patriots really excited. And it was a call to action Monday, September 16th, 6 p.m. And basically, we switched venues at the last minute because of some licensing or something. So they did show up last night. And I was out in the parking lot talking to a cop. And I said, where are they? I hear the horns. And he pointed down the road. He said, well, they went to the wrong spot. And they turned around a couple times. And now they just went back down the county road and they're gone. So we had a fantastic time. We registered people to vote.
Excellent.
We had 120, 130 people.
I got to cut you short, Tom. Thank you for that. Mark yourself safe from Laura Loomer. But why do I need to know Laura Loomer any more than I need to know Mike Lindell? Get out of my mind. I want to thank our friend John Nichols coming up tomorrow. We have Matt Rothschild going to join us as well. Hope you do too. Have a great night.